So, welcome to Walsall United WFC. Hello and welcome to Walsall United with me, John Foster, MUFC. I can see Connor laughing already because he's probably thinking to himself, this is the third time I've heard it already. There's going to be a fourth. All in the space of like 4 hours. It's a fantastic week for Man United women's team and fans and podcasters and whatever you want to call it, because it's so much content going out, lots of excitement. And to add that excitement today, we've got Emma Sanders with us. How are you doing, Emma?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you both? Thanks for having me on.
I'm really well, thank you. I'm buzzing. I'm not tired yet. I think at some point, at like about midnight, I'm just going to collapse. Got so many things going through my head. I hope I remember everything. But I think this week's just been really good for a United fan. For the women's team at least. And there's just so much content out there, and all the journalists are doing a great job. Seeing Old Trafford this week has been amazing. Seeing all the players on their social medias, fantastic. Connor, what how are you, mate? You okay?
I'm like you. I'm gonna pass out come 11 o'clock tonight. We've still got another one to come later on, talking about the men's team, unfortunately, because it's all negative over there, isn't it? But it's positive over this side for now. So we'll keep going, keep going for now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emma's going to come on tonight. Obviously, she's been speaking to a few players. Has been speaking to Mark Skinner. So we're going to get a few quotes read out there and Emma's thoughts on that. But just before anything, Emma, you just mentioned before the show that you went for a little walk around Old Trafford and you saw some of the pictures and all this kind of stuff. How lovely does Old Trafford look at the moment?
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I think the club have done a fantastic job over the last few weeks in terms of marketing the game. Fair play to them, because I think it's been really, really good. Obviously, we saw the interviews with David De Gea and Mary Earps together, which I thought was really nice. And then, just went for a walk. Obviously, I'd seen some of the pictures online, but went for a walk earlier. And Old Trafford is looking really, really good. Just, the branding everywhere. There's just women's team and faces everywhere. And, it looks like they're trying to make it a proper fortress and a proper home for the game on the weekend. So, it's really good. And I think more clubs need to do more of it. You look at the Arsenal game last night that was at the Emirates. Yes, they didn't give out any free tickets. So all of those that went, about 5,000 odd, were all, paying customers. But I do think Arsenal could have done a little bit more to market that game. And, it's a Champions League quarter final, and I thought it was a little bit disappointing, really. So I think already United have done a really good job in terms of marketing this game. So hopefully the fans turn out and they get the reward for it.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I think I might have mentioned it earlier in the evening, but has any other club kind of, from what you've seen, Emma, like, cause obviously you go to more different stadiums than I do, when they go to the men's stadium, have you ever seen like so many pictures of the players before, like outside the men's stadium? Has any other club done anything similar? Because this comes out in my mind.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of stadiums that have, the women's team faces on there permanently. Anfield's got, some of the local players. The Etihad has some of the Manchester City players. I remember Chelsea did it when the women played at Stamford Bridge. Probably not to the same extent. I mean, I think Old Trafford is really good in terms of the way that the stadium's set out. Obviously, you've got that bit with the wall all around the back near the front. So I think that's really helped, because they've put the kind of pictures of all of the players on every single individual wall. I've not seen anything like that before. And the fact that they've kind of completely wiped out the men, I think is a real statement. I've not seen anything like that before, where they've, essentially kind of gone, this is the home of the women for the weekend, which it is, because obviously, it's men's international break. So I've never seen something like that before. No, like I say, I've seen like the branding of women on like sort of men's stadiums, but nothing to the extent, I don't think, of what I saw at Old Trafford. So it was really nice to see.
It does look like a complete takeover, doesn't it, this week, Connor? I mean, it's great for us fans. That's why you could argue that, more should be done regularly as opposed to just everything in 1 week. But, this is exactly what you want for that final week. You want, this is the biggest thing for the club this week. With the men's team not playing, then there's been a lot of focus on our women's team, and they've certainly gone at it full pelt, haven't they?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start off with a very, very slight little niggle. Is I wish they did it in position order. Like you have the goalkeepers next to each other. You know how I edited my little video where you have the goalkeepers, fullback, centre back. I don't know, just a slight little.
Oh, in number order. Was it in number order?
I mean, we don't even do that with team sheets, so I'm not. I'm not surprised. But no, honestly, it's brilliant. I think match day as well. There's a lot of stuff planned, like they do with the men's. They have all the family zones outside Old Trafford on men's match day. They're doing that again on Sunday as well, from what I've seen. It's good that it's just, I think like Emma just said there, they've taken all of the men's branding off, and it is like the women's stadium for the day. And it shouldn't be, I think I said this on the last show, that this should be happening more often, in my opinion, not just for the day or the weekend or whatever. I hope after this game they don't just rip it all down and go, right, stick all the men's stuff back up again. They're going to with some of the parts, I get that, but not all of it. They can keep some of the stuff around the ground, I think. But yeah, this week, I think I said on the last show, didn't I, that it's almost, they're cramming a lot in this week. There's been a lot of content especially today and yesterday. It's every hour, 2 hours. There's something new, something different to look at. So I think they have smashed it this week. I'll be interested to see where the ticket sales go in this final week. How many more that translates into actual people in the ground. But in terms of stuff around Old Trafford and things like that, it's brilliant to see. But yeah, I just hope it stays, or I hope some of it stays anyway. I hope they don't just pull it all down just because of the games being moved back to late after this weekend.
And there's lots of people in the comments. They all want to know just a couple of 3 things: players, injuries, all that kind of stuff. So it's correct. Was it yesterday or today? I can't even remember. It all blends into one. I don't know what day it is. But we've got some players returning from injury. So obviously a lot of fans will be happy to see Hayley Ladd come back, Sina Brunn, Maria Thorisdottir, Carrie Jones. So those 4, I think, have all been named that they're going to be available. And then you've got Smith, Mannion, obviously Staniforth, Turner still out. But obviously it's a lot better position than we was in a couple of weeks ago. I thought we was in a bad way before, and then all of a sudden we have 1 or 2 on top of that as well. What are your thoughts on those players coming back? Do you think they'll be maybe ease back in gently, or do you think they'll need, because that's usually what Skinner does, he'll ease them back in gently, or can you see them maybe getting a bit of game time at Old Trafford?
I think Hayley Ladd will play, to be honest with you. They've all trained fully this week, so they're all fully fit. Obviously, that's different in terms of match fitness, but I think just the way that kind of Hayley Ladd plays, I think she's really important to the team. And I think even if she only plays an hour, it wouldn't surprise me. Or if she comes off the bench, it wouldn't surprise me if she gets minutes. I wouldn't have expected to see Carrie, start anyway. I don't know whether she'll come off the bench. Probably not for me. Sinia, again, she's trained now for kind of over a week, really. I think the West Ham game came just too soon. So yeah, it was West Ham, wasn't it? The last game. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I remember it well.
Yeah. It feels like a while ago now, but that game came almost too soon for her. But actually, I think if that had been maybe 2 days later, then she might have been fit enough to be in the match day squad for that. So I think she's more than fit as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if she plays. And then in terms of Maria, she was just a little bit ill for the last game, and she's absolutely fine. So I actually think all of them could feature. Like I say, I think Hayley Ladd. I think Mark's been pretty patient waiting for her to come back, so it wouldn't surprise me if she features straight away.
Yeah, we'll get more into players at the start of 11 and everything throughout the show, and I'll jump into some of the comments. But just wondering what your thoughts are this week around the club, the vibe around the club. Can you feel like a lot of positivity there? It feels like it is on social media. A lot of the players seem very happy and bubbly and upbeat, and obviously good news that 4 players have returned back from injury as well. Can you feel something a little bit different around the club this week as well, Emma?
Yeah, 100%. I think, for a lot of players, especially the ones that are United fans, and there are a lot of them at the club, this is obviously it's a massive occasion. They had their kind of day at Old Trafford last season, but obviously it was behind closed doors and it's completely different. I saw, Mary Earps she did a call with the press and she said that, you can't really talk about it in the same sentence because it is like a different occasion, and I completely agree with that. So yeah, the players are all absolutely buzzing for it. And like you say, that you can see that on social media, but you can also, in the interviews with them and stuff, you can tell they've been excited for a few weeks now. But not only that, I think they're very focused as well, because there's quite a clear goal. I think it's getting really exciting in terms of like the race to the Champions League qualification spots as well. So I think just the actual football itself, I think they're just really, really loving it at the moment. Obviously, the team's clicked really well since the start of the new year. So yeah, there is a really good feel. It was Mark Skinner's birthday on his press conference yesterday, so I told him I wished him a happy 21st. So he was absolutely buzzing with that. He said he was going to have a pint for all of us. It was on the call, which there was a fair few. So God knows how he's feeling today, but yeah, no, absolutely. Like you can really, really tell that. Yeah, there's a good feeling, certainly on the women's side anyway. But yeah, there's
and obviously Mark was in good spirits about it. Was he like relaxed and taking it all in? Because I can imagine him being the type of guy that would really revel in all this, and he's excited just on a normal match day, let alone Old Trafford. So I can imagine him really being up for this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see some of his quotes in a piece that I'm hopefully having up tomorrow. But yeah, he's he wax lyrical about sort of the history of Old Trafford and it being the theatre of dreams, and he's a very emotional guy, and he's always upbeat and he's always happy. So yeah, he probably had a little bit more of an edge this week than usual, which like I say is some going, because he's probably the happiest person I know. But yeah, he was really, really excited. I think he's more excited for the players, to be honest. He knows how much it means to like the likes of Tooney and stuff. So no, he was like he was really, really excited. You could tell.
Before we ask you how your week's gone, Emma, and what you've been up to and who you've been speaking to and what articles we can look out for and what articles have already come out, just want to get a kind of thoughts on how buzzing the players must be and the manager as well about playing at Old Trafford, and this build up the past week. It really is a good build up, isn't it? Obviously, you could argue that it means nothing if we don't get the result, but on the flip side, we talk about Sunday being a massive event or massive game for the players, but they've already experienced. This is the fun time now. This is an amazing amount of fun that the players must be having now. So long as they're professional on Sunday, this has been a perfect week for them, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think I will just quickly mention before I start as well that also, not just from a United point of view, some of the Everton girls as well, it might be the first and only time they get to play in a ground like this, depending on obviously what happens with some of their careers. But for them as well, rocking up to Old Trafford, it's a massive stadium. It takes you by, for people that have never been, until you've been there and you look out and oh my life, and you look up and you think it's a massive ground until you've been there, you don't realize how big it is. So yeah, I think just for everybody, for the players, for even if you're not a United fan, I think just stepping out onto the pitch, knowing the amount of legends. Emma's not gonna like this as a Liverpool representative, but you're thinking of the legends that have walked out onto that pitch, and yeah, I think just this whole week for them, you saw how excited Mary was. I think she put a tweet out about it earlier, actually, talking about, from being, I can't remember exact tweets, I'm being careful not to misquote it. I think it was something like from being denied playing football at school to now being on the cover of, on the side of Old Trafford and things like that. So all of those kind of things is brilliant for them. And I'm sure they'll lap up this week. But I think when Saturday rolls around, I'm sure that Mark will be getting them settled down a little bit and focusing on the game ahead, because it's just a big occasion for all of them. Like I said, how I think as some of the United fans within our team as well, if you look at players like Diane, for example, can you imagine her scoring a goal in front of the Stretford end, or even in front of us in J stand, but things that she's probably dreamt of as a kid? That it's those moments that will just generate incredible stories off the back of it. So yeah, I really hope it happens for some of them.
100%, yeah, absolutely. Okay, Emma, sorry, obviously it's been a busy week for you. Who have you spoken to? What articles have you got? Obviously, we saw a Tooney one, so what else have you been up to? And obviously, please let us know about the Tooney interview as well, because that's probably been the highlight of the week for me as well.
Oh, good. Well, to be honest, I actually did these interviews a while back, so preparing in advance because I'm on a hen do in Newcastle this weekend, so I had to get all my preview content in early. But no, I was kindly invited down to Old Trafford when the players were doing their photo shoot for the posters, which are now up outside Old Trafford. So so obviously I knew that was going to be happening at some point anyway. But so I spoke to Tooney, I spoke to Mary Earps and to Jackie Cronin as well. So there's a couple of quotes from Earps that have gone out today in an article that sort of went out a few hours ago, just kind of on the Champions League qualification race. And then there's a big piece going out hopefully tomorrow where you can read all about Tooney, Earps and Jackie getting very excited about Old Trafford. There's lots in there about the fans and sort of the impact of what you guys can bring. And I thought there was a really strong stuff from Mary on kind of what it means for the women's team to be given the platform at Old Trafford. I think that was really strong. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. But yeah, they were great. I mean, Tooney was in top form. Obviously, if you've seen the video, we asked them to do so that there'll be a couple of bits that are going to be out sort of on camera, on TV, on radio. Obviously there's some bits that's been out on social, and then obviously there'll be some bits on the written piece, but not all of it will be in one place. So have a little look around. But yeah, there's already some stuff on BBC Sport TikTok from Tooney. I sort of asked her to sing her song. So I asked her what her favourite song was, and she said that obviously all the team love Vilda Barisa's song. But at the time when I interviewed her, so this would have been 4 or 5 weeks ago, was I think the song with obviously Tooney and Leslie, I think was quite new. Yeah. So she was all very excited to sing it. Although she did say, well, I'm not going to sing it. And I was like, well, obviously I'm going to ask you to sing it. So you're going to have to. And she was like, oh, okay, then fine. And then started singing it and obviously got it wrong. And she was absolutely fuming. So it was really funny. I was wetting myself in the background. And then I could tell that she was embarrassed. And she was like, oh no, can I do it again? And I was like, no, you've only got one shot. So I had to segue into the next question. So, but no, she was great. Obviously chatted a bit to all three of them about the Euros as well. So I'll be keeping hold of that. So you'll have to wait for that. But yeah, I thought there was quite a nice line from Jackie actually, where she was talking about the Euros, and she said it felt like playing in 2 back-to-back home Euros because she's obviously got the Man United fans here in England cheering her on, despite playing for the Netherlands. And then obviously they're the defending champions. So all really good. And I guess that the themes that all of them were talking about, aside from obviously playing at Old Trafford, was just the general kind of feeling of how good the team has sort of clicked since the new year. A lot of them were sort of talking about that. Mary in particular was pretty excited about sort of the progress of the team so far. So it was really good day. Although we did have we couldn't do them on the pitch because they basically, like the giant lights that they put on, like sort of like the central put on top of the pit. So they decided to do a photo shoot on the day when there was all of these on the pitch. So it was an absolute nightmare. So we all had to sort of congregate in tiny areas of Old Trafford. So you can't tell because the cameramen are brilliant. But we only had a small space to work in. So that was quite funny. But yeah, and it was like deceivingly cold as well. Poor Jackie was absolutely freezing. She had to put a coat on midway through the interview. So. Oh
yeah, of course, because obviously this was a few weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think it's
not quite sunny Old Trafford today, but yeah.
Loads of comments, so I'll come back to those shortly. But kind of just before I bring you in, I just want to ask Emma why I'm speaking a little bit about Tooney. Have you seen Tooney grow a lot in the last 3 or 4 weeks? And I'm not on about height, I'm on about as a person, because we speak all the time about her. And I just wanted to get your kind of opinion because you kind of followed her for a long time as well, doing the role that you're doing. she just comes across so confident in front of the media now. Well, is that true, or do you kind of see a shy side to her? Because to me, it looks like that, she wouldn't have done half of this stuff, 3 or 4 years ago, with the confidence that it looks like that she's got now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you can't underestimate the step up and the difference it makes when you move into the England squad, for example. So I remember, like, even before sort of moving up into the England setup, she was perhaps getting a little bit more confident, in terms of maybe doing media within Manchester United, but even outside of it, there wasn't too much of a change. And then the second she sort of, moved up and became an England international, it makes a massive difference, because, the media eyes on you. It's not just a press conference where there might be 10 journalists or even 20. It's, you go from that to suddenly 40, 50 on every single England call. Obviously, your name's in the national, it's in the national print everywhere. All eyes are on you. You're no longer the kind of the big fish in a small pond. You're the small fish in an ocean. So that made a massive difference. I think since then, so I'd probably say the last 6 months or so, has made a massive difference. I remember her doing actually an England press call. I think it was after after the behind closed doors friendly against Northern Ireland, maybe. I think she played in that one. I'm trying to think back now. I'm pretty sure it was, though, because it was on Zoom, and I remember being at St George's Park and she came on, and she was sort of, you could tell she was a little bit nervous and perhaps didn't want to say too much. Her answers were quite short, but the difference between like that and perhaps one that she'd done for United like a month previously was already even better, because she was just surrounded by players who were obviously bigger, and just like their media profiles were bigger. So yeah, she has like definitely grown massively. But obviously I can't say too much, but I did actually hear a funny story before I started my interview with her at Old Trafford. And I was speaking to a couple of people from United, and she'd said something really funny in an interview, not one that went out, and and basically sort of kind of got not told off, but sort of someone said like, why would you say that? And she was like, oh, I don't know, I just didn't think about it. So she's definitely a bit more savvy, but she's really matured, both I think on the pitch, but certainly off it, for sure.
I think she's just so honest as a person as well. It's like she doesn't, like, it comes across like she doesn't mean any harm, and she just says what's on her mind. And I think the fans buy into that a lot, because it's nothing. It's not an act or anything. It's not like it's scripted, And I think she's going to keep on going from strength to strength. And the performances on the pitch every season has developed, and this season it's just been absolutely fantastic. Connor, we just mentioned a little bit about confidence there, and I think regarding the game itself, we're going to go into this game quite confident. How much do you think that this week is going to be a positive impact to our players, because they're obviously really upbeat at the moment? You reckon that's going to be a positive thing on the pitch?
I hope so. I think us having a week's break has probably done us good. I think we have had the schedule maybe that Everton have had. I mean, Everton have had pretty much what we had in February. I think they played City, then Chelsea, and City again. Obviously, midweek before they're now coming to Old Trafford. You're not going to get a much tougher run than that, are you? So I'm kind of glad we've had a week's break, because it's allowed the players to go off, relax. After a disappointing, West Ham draw. We said before when we saw some of the players afterwards how deflated they looked, as you would be conceding that late on. So having that break is good, but I've heard a lot of people say that I hope they don't kind of play the occasion. I hope they do, because I think that will probably spur them on. You hear the crowd, and for certain players that are high on confidence, like you talk about Tooney there, talk about Russo, for example, other players that you'd think wouldn't get phased by it. Diane's got a lot of experience. You'd expect her to be playing. Jackie, as you mentioned before, Barisa, these kinds of players. Zellum never seems to get phased by anything. These players, they'll relish in the occasion, in my opinion. So having this past week, all of the positivity, it's almost that West Ham result is forgotten. We're moving on now. Let's focus on all the positivity around the club at the moment and push that on into the game, because, no disrespect to Everton, but player for player, you'd probably argue that we're the stronger side. So as long as we don't overthink the occasion too much, let them enjoy it. at the end of the day, that it's the moment for them, isn't it? You don't want to, and I'm sure Mark won't. You don't want to take too much away from them. You want to let them enjoy it and let them have that moment, but at the same time focus on obviously the game in hand. We've still got that race for the top 3 on. So yeah, I hope they do play up to the occasion a little bit, because I think it will spur them on when they look at the crowd and think, crikey, there's, let's say, 30,000 here. That will push them on, hopefully. And say we are level going into the last 10, 15 minutes, the crowd could play a massive part for them as well. They'll run that extra yard because the crowd are fully behind them. And yeah, I hope they do play the occasion. I think the positivity the past week has helped take away the disappointment of West Ham a little bit.
Yeah. That's a good point, yeah. I've left Lanzel's comment on screen, Emma. I know that you asked Skinner's question yourself. I don't know if you've actually got your quotes written down, but I'm sure you can memorise pretty much what he said. But do you want to go into that question?
Yeah, so I mean, the reason I asked it is because, to be honest with you, I've obviously been asking behind the scenes and asking sources and stuff, and from what I was aware, there wasn't really much movement since kind of the last thing that I must have reported back in January, and obviously they first advertised the role in December. So as far as I knew, they were always planning on taking their time, but they were like looking at a whole range of candidates. So I know that there was some people from within the club who showed a bit of interest, but they were also looking at candidates from other sports who perhaps had a bit more of a kind of a business model as opposed to specifically kind of football. So they were looking at loads and loads of people from kind of what I last heard. So, but yeah, I hadn't really heard any kind of progress on it in terms of a shortlist. So that was why I obviously asked Mark, and basically he pretty much said along those lines of that they're still kind of looking, and they're looking, extensively, and they're kind of they're trying to get the right person in. And I mean, obviously, I think there was an element of probably batting away the question, because clearly, either they have got somewhere and they didn't want to say anything about it. But yeah, my understanding of it was that they're pretty much still looking and nothing's really changed. But I do think that's very normal for a role like this. It's not. It's very different to. I guess it's difficult as fans to kind of appreciate it, because I guess from our point of view, you think, oh, it's a job vacancy. Why is it not being filled? But I think it's very different at board level. It's not like a manager who you sort of, you look to try and employ within a month or two. So, I think come the summer, if there still isn't any movement, I'd be pretty concerned. But I think they'll have someone in place, hopefully before the end of the season, if not in the summer. But yeah, it sounds like they're doing their sort of their due diligence on it, but perhaps stuff that's been going on with the men's side has probably taken a bit of a forefront, which I guess is a little bit disappointing from my point of view. I'd like to see kind of just as much kind of effort go in, but I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are looking at all the right candidates. And like I say, I do know that there has been people who have sort of expressed interest. So yeah, it's not like it's a vacancy that's sort of been sat there. There has been some discussions over it, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, you've taken what I was just about to say. That I'm not saying this is right and it shouldn't be the case, but I do think what's happened on the men's with the managerial situation over there is, and also you got to remember Ed Woodward obviously has moved on, and John Murtagh has now moved into a new position. Darren Fletcher's roles have changed. Like, there's been a lot of movement at board level at Man United recently. So people adjusting to new roles. Obviously, we're trying to get a new manager. Obviously, Ten Hag looks to be the favourite there. I also would add as well, it's important they get this right. I'd rather them take a while, obviously before the summer, preferably before the window, and you start looking ahead for a proper plan then. But they do need to get it right, because the last thing you'd want is they get somebody in, that person doesn't have the same ambitions as maybe Mark Skinner has, or some of the players, or the board, or whatever. And then a year later, we're moving on, we're changing again, because that's what we're seeing on the men's side with the constant cycle of management and everything else that's happening there. So it's important, whatever they do, it's just the right person. So I'm kind of glad it's taken a little bit longer, because it shows that a little bit of impact from the men's side, but also shows they're putting a bit more thought into it, and they're not just hiring somebody just to fill a position, like ticking a box. They're actually making sure it's the right person.
And just out of curiosity, what kind of person do you think would be suitable for this? I'm not about a specific person, just like what personalities or attributes do you think would you be looking at? Would it be someone who's got a lot of knowledge in the women's game, who can kind of potentially where like some of the board members haven't got that knowledge? Or would it be someone who's come from another club, someone who's been with the club before? What kind of person do you think would kind of make a good candidate for this?
You know what? That's such a difficult question, because I've thought about this myself, and I'm like, I'm not really sure, because I think there's two ways you can go about it. You have someone who's got an extensive women's football knowledge and who's got contacts, and who can then use those kind of contacts and knowledge within the game to almost delegate in terms of, they might be able to recruit, in terms of scouting, they might be able to recruit in terms of medical, etc., and therefore, in terms of their kind of experience and knowledge within the game, they're improving individual departments, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or you have somebody completely different who doesn't necessarily have specific, women's football expertise, but they are very good at running a business and very good at running an organization. And at the end of the day, that's what football is. Like, as much as we want it to just be a sport, we want it to be about, the fans, it's a business model. And I think managing that model is essentially probably the role of head of women's football. Although the fact that it's head of women's football and not director, for example, makes it a lot more niche, because I'd imagine it's a bit more about the actual kind of operational side of the women's team day to day, as opposed to the overall picture. So, like, for example, and I hope that all makes sense, but you'll have a general manager, which kind of basically is in charge of things like contracts and things like that. And then you'll have a director. So like Liverpool, Leicester, for example, they've kind of had like directors. So they're like part on the board. So they oversee things purely from a business sense. They don't really deal that much in terms of the day-to-day running. And then you might have like, your chairmans or your owners, etc., that they've got at Chelsea, which is, again, a bit more of a kind of a wider role. So, the head of women's football is it's in between the two. So it's really difficult, I think, to know exactly what kind of candidate you want. I think ideally you want someone who's got a presence within women's football, but perhaps has got extensive experience on the business side of things. So I'd probably go for one that's perhaps in between. But yeah, it's really difficult. I think really difficult.
And that just opens it up to so many different candidates, doesn't it? It really does. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that there's nothing major that you can probably say to this question on screen, but do you want to just at least talk about it and kind of obviously just your thoughts on, your thoughts on whether or not you'll sign or not, because that's pretty much the simple question, isn't it? But go on, Emma, you go first on this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've been asking, I think, pretty much every week about the new contracts. As far as I'm aware, Jackie hasn't signed one as yet, but that's not to say she will. I think, genuinely, I think when they say, we're having these discussions, I do think it's true. I think it is just a bit of an ongoing thing. But I think quite a lot of times the actual players themselves, outside of the kind of the football calendar, they don't really deal with it that much. It's more kind of a background thing between, I guess, agents and representatives and the club themselves. But it wouldn't surprise me if Jackie just sort of, signs one within the next 3 or 4 weeks when the season's sort of coming to an end. Personally, I think she will. I don't think you've got anything to worry about. That's just my personal opinion. That's from no insight whatsoever. That's just the fact that I just think she's enjoying her football, and I don't really see where else she'd want to go at the moment. I mean, obviously, Champions League football is what a player of her quality will be wanting to play. But even if Man United miss out this season, then the progression that they've shown and the kind of direction they're going, it all points towards eventually, being in a strong position to play Champions League football. So, I think she will sign it. But like I say, I wouldn't get too concerned, if you don't hear anything for the next sort of 2-3 weeks. But I think as it gets closer to May, I'd be starting to think, okay, right now you want to be hearing some news.
That's a bit more positive than my answer because I actually don't think she's going to. Personally, I don't think she will. I think it heavily relies. I think if we get Champions League, I think then there's a very strong chance she does. But she's at a point of her career now, whereas if she signs, I don't know what kind of deal they'll be offering her. But let's say it's kind of, we'll be probably looking at, it wouldn't be a Tooney length deal, but it will be something not far off, a couple of years with an option of a third or something like that. Is she going to sign for that length of time, knowing that potentially she might not play Champions League for a year, 2 years? I don't know. It depends on the ambition of the club. I've got a little bit of positivity that, Tooney signed so early in the season when we were on a bad run of form. So clearly some conversation was had in terms of the aims of the club. So that's a positive sign. So I'm not too sure. I think if there was one player out of all the players who got out of contract, you're looking at, obviously Russo, Honor, all these players. I think even Kate, I think Zellam's out as well. Martha Harris, Millie Turner. We've got a lot of players, but with potential of an extra year anyway. I don't know whether that sits on the player or the club side. Jackie's the most likely to me out of that group that would move on. Purely just out of Champions League. As I said, she's at a point in her career where that's... I don't know. I know she loves, I don't disagree with that. I'm sure she does love the club and love playing here and everything like that. But I don't know. It all depends on the ambition of the club, doesn't it? I think this is why I said it with this head of women's football or whatever the official terminology is. They've got to get that right, because keeping these players like your Honours and Jackies and so on, it's so important that the club have got the ambition, not only to get, let's say we do sneak third this year, but then to push on. How can we then challenge for the title? How can we then progress? If we get out of the group stage of Champions League and knocked out by Barca or something, how do we then go on again? That's where the ambition needs to be. So I think it all depends on that. But I think if you were looking at everyone out of contract, Jackie to me is the most likely not to sign, potentially. I don't know. Don't kill me in the comments for that.
No, to be honest, I do agree with that. I do think out of the ones that, how would I sort of describe this? The ones that I guess Manchester United would want to keep, and I know that sounds awful, but there is always going to be movement in every sort of transfer window. There's always one or two players that might go just naturally. But yeah, in terms of the ones that Man United want to keep, I think they've made it very clear that they want Jackie to stay. I do agree that she is probably the one that would be most likely to not sign, but I think all of them will. And like I said, that's of kind of no insight really. I just think all of them will, because I get what you're saying about Champions League football, but like what I said, I guess in terms of the direction of the club, if she was going to move elsewhere anyway, she wouldn't necessarily be guaranteed to be playing week in, week out. It takes time. She might have to work her way into a side. And actually, I'm looking at the sides in Champions League at the moment. Certainly the ones that are kind of at the peak of it, they've got very solid squads, and they're kind of right in the peak of their kind of development in terms of Champions League football. You look at obviously like the Spanish teams, you look at the German teams, like they've got quite settled teams. So if she stays an extra year at United, like I genuinely think United will be in a strong position to be playing Champions League football next season. So even if it is a case of her saying, right, well, I'll only sign a year with the option of an extra one if we qualify for the Champions League, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And to be honest, I think that would be a good deal for both her and United. But yeah, I think she will. But I do agree with Connor. I think she's probably the most likely one not to, if that makes sense.
They could. I don't want to turn this into a Jackie contract thing, but they could put a clause in there potentially that they just give her a year with an option of a further year should we get Champions League next year. They might say to her in the summer, right, can you stay one more year? If we don't get Champions League next year, then we'll let you get, similar to what Man United did with Ronaldo back in it. Can you just stay one more year so we can, settle it afterwards kind of thing. They might do that with Jackie, just say, give us one more year if we don't get it this summer I'm on about, and then see where we are in a year's time. That might be something the club looks to do.
Maybe the club have already done that by buying Borisa and just give, is that Jackie's replacement? I don't know. I hope not, by the way. I just thought I'd throw that one in there. Maybe that year kind of already. This is that one year.
Not for me.
No, that's good.
I think that's just natural squad building, squad depth building. That's my opinion, but yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to get your opinion on this one, Emma, while you're on the show. I think it's a good question. What does Emma think about next season's games being played at Old Trafford against the big three? So we've been saying quite a bit, Everton obviously not going to bring too many fans across to this game. We probably could break a few records if we play somewhere like a City, Arsenal or Chelsea, because that would probably bring a few more fans with them. But do we want to turn it into one of these where it's like more of a novelty, I guess? Because for me, I wouldn't want to see too many games. But that's just me. I think one a season, I think is okay. But I think if every big game is played at Old Trafford, I don't know if I'd like that or not. I think it might lose its magic. But what's your thoughts on that, Emma?
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'd like to see probably more than one game a season at Old Trafford, maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe max. But yeah, I think you have to do them against the bigger teams. That would be my one criticism actually, and this is no disrespect to Everton, but in terms of a sell, it just felt like a very random game. I mean, I get it; it's obviously during the international break, and it makes sense from that point of view. But there was probably kind of bigger fixtures. You might have been able to do perhaps a midweek game that just felt like it had a little bit more riding on it. I mean, on paper, this, you guys might be a little bit more worried, but from a kind of a journalistic on paper point of view, United should be winning this game. It's as simple as that. So I think the competitive edge perhaps probably isn't there that you would get in obviously, a Manchester derby. Naturally, people who aren't, women's football fanatics that might only dip in and out, they will know the big names that the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal will bring. And obviously you've got, the contingency in terms of like England players that you've got at City as well. So I think those teams naturally will help draw more crowds. And it's essentially, women's football is still in a stage as much as, like, I know you two and I certainly do from a job point of view. I treat it exactly the same as men's football. It's no different to me, but I'm also not naive. I know that, a lot of people out there don't know a lot about women's football, and they still need that sort of education and that information provided. So in terms of putting on a show and giving that kind of occasion for fans of football who might not watch as much women's football, I think bringing the big players in the big games, you have to do. I think there's no denying that. But yeah, I think you don't want to do it too much. Like you say, the novelty. Not that I think it's a novelty. I think we want to get to the point where you're playing every week at Old Trafford and it's just normal and you don't have to worry about the fans. But while we're in a position where, getting fans to 2 games is still an issue, and I've been really, really disappointed across the board with attendances in WSL and sort of national games for a good year and a half now. Obviously, COVID has had a massive impact on that, but I think it's been poor. That for me has got to be the priority. Until you sell out your every week stadiums, becoming a regular thing in men's stadiums is not for me. But having, like I say, sort of 2, 3, 4 showcase games a season, I think absolutely. I think you need that just to keep reminding people of the women's game and keep sort of educating them of it, and hopefully they'll come back to the smaller games, which they're obviously not, but the everyday games that you get early.
Yeah, sorry, John, just quickly. There's no doubt to me, if this was a Manchester derby at the weekend, you'd be looking at probably close to 50, in my opinion. I think you'd probably be pushing the boundary of the limit that that they're hoping in terms of 50k, and then before you start opening up the second tiers. Some of the other second tiers, because it's like you said, Everton. It's not. It's a big-ish game, but I agree with what you, John, said in the past. I'm pretty sure you were just about to say this. That should we have, if we'd have picked maybe a Chelsea or a Man City, a bigger name, and we get smacked, then does that sell? Does that scream come and watch us kind of thing? If we'd have lost 4-1, that game that we lost 4-1 a couple of weeks ago to City, if that's at Old Trafford in front of 35, 40k. It's not really a good advert for the team, even though it shouldn't matter anyway. Result, you should be going to support the team anyway. I can see why, in some sense, that they're choosing maybe an Everton just to get people through the door. But I fully agree. Get people. I think Rob's put the comment in. Pack out LSV first. Let's get 7, 8, 9, 10k in there first, and then we'll start looking at the bigger ground.
We've got so many comments to go through. Do you want to answer that one on screen there, Emma, about Champions League? So I was speaking to Anthony a little earlier. That show's going to go out on Saturday midday on the Orth United main account. But Anthony's kind of thinking that it's kind of out of our hands now. He thinks the City will probably overtake us with the amount of goals that they'll probably end up scoring. And obviously we've got Chelsea last game of the season. Where were you kind of thinking there, Emma?
Yeah, so I did a piece today on sort of the situation, and we obviously looked at the run in, and at the moment, obviously Spurs are still in the race. Obviously, they're 4 points behind, got a game in hand. I think Spurs will drop out very, very quickly because they have to play obviously Chelsea twice and Arsenal. Obviously at the Emirates if that game goes ahead, which I think it will. But obviously that they called off the game on Wednesday because of COVID cases. So the press conference tomorrow. So I guess we'll see what their situation is. But I think Tottenham are out of it. I think it is just between two Manchester clubs. United have obviously got the advantage in terms of goal difference. I think you've got just as much chance. I mean, City have got a kind of run in. They don't play any team in the top five in their remaining 5 fixtures. I think the highest placed team that they play currently, I think, is it's either Reading or West Ham. I think it's Reading. So, I mean, you'd fancy them probably to win all of those games. And then United, obviously, I think it will come down to that final day, to be honest, against Chelsea. But it might play into their hands that Chelsea might be in a position there where they have to win and a draw won't be good enough. And that'll be interesting to see, because if they have to win, then they've got to come out and play, and there might be spaces there. And if United get the game plan right, then who knows? So I genuinely think it will go down to the last day. So because I think it will, then sure, United have absolutely got a chance. But they have to keep that goal difference advantage. And I think that's probably going to be just as hard, because City score a lot of goals, they create a lot of chances. So yeah, not only is it sort of about picking up the 3 points, obviously they need to keep that goal difference. And those 2 late goals for City against Everton on Wednesday didn't help. So yeah, I think they've got a chance. Absolutely.
Yeah, there is only 2 goals difference. That's all it is. And I wouldn't mind it going to the last game of the season, because anything can happen on the last game. I know we were massive underdogs, but it would be like a cup final. It's not like an everyday. Anything can happen on that last day of the season. Connor's laughing because we've had these conversations over and over again. But I will say that to Connor, if it goes to the last game of the season, with everything that we've gone through now, that means that we would win every game from now till then.
Yeah.
Would you kind of take that, Connor? Because I can't see City dropping too many points, if I'm honest. If it's in our hands on that last game of the season, the way things stand now, would that be such a bad thing?
It's only 4 games for both teams between now and the end of the season. So,
is it 4 or 5? I think.
No, so they've got 5 games left. But I'm saying before that last game, it's only 4 games, and I genuinely think City and United will win all 4 of their next games.
For me, it's going to be the only 2. It's the 2 away games for Man City, because they've got West Ham away. West Ham at home are actually a very good side, as we found out. I think they've only lost once at home, and that might have been to Chelsea. So that's going to be a tough opposition there. And then Reading on the last day. Reading are a decent side. Can they? It's just going to be nervous. In answer to your question, John, would I take going down to that? I mean, yes, technically, but I wouldn't want to be. We should be sat there keeping an eye on the scores. It'll be like an old-fashioned relegation day. When you're looking at looking at the other results. We'll be keeping an eye on the Reading game, but I don't know. Looking at those games, it's the Man City at home to Birmingham and at home to Leicester, because you'd expect City to put quite a few past them, particularly Birmingham. If they can rack up 4 or 5 against Birmingham, another 4 or 5 against Leicester, we're in trouble, because we have done it a few times this season, but we don't score a lot. So when it comes down to goal difference, if we go to Chelsea, we could be behind City. So it's not in our hands then, it really is. Because we're not going to go and beat Chelsea 6 or 7-0, are we, by the time we get there? So yeah, it is in our hands but we need to go and put game at the start of the weekend, go and put 4 past Everton, like City did. Just match what City are doing. Go and put 4 past Everton. Got Brighton after that, another 3 or couple there. Villa then it is in our hands, but I don't know. I think goal difference could I would hate for us to lose out after this long season on goal difference. That will be a killer. But
it's progression on paper. Just to lose out on goal difference. We only lost by 1 point last season, so you can't argue that it wouldn't be progression, but it would be a killer. It really would. Charlie's in the comments saying that we're better off needing a win because then obviously we can't sit back. It's a good one. Lanzel's saying he wants it done before Chelsea. I would like it done before Chelsea, definitely, but I agree with Emma. I can't see City dropping points. I can't see us dropping any more points. So I do think it'll come down to the last game.
I think Villa could be a potentially tough one in terms of picking up the goals. Obviously, Villa have held out a lot of teams late on in games. They make it hard. So it'll be interesting to see. I think you guys played really, really well against them last time. So you could potentially not pass 3 or 4 against them, but on their day, Villa can make it really difficult. So that might be the one game. And obviously, it's away from home that, other than obviously the Chelsea on the final day, that I'd probably be looking at and thinking it's a little bit. But the others, I think, I think it will. I can't see either team dropping points. I just not until the final day. And then I think if City haven't dropped points by the final day, sorry to say this, but I would have City down as favourites to nick it on the final day, just because I think Chelsea is just such a difficult game.
It's the West Ham one for City, isn't it? I'm just looking at it now. That 2nd of April. It's the same day we play Brighton at home. It's a couple of weeks away. It's 11:30 kickoff down in West Ham. So I don't know. If you're looking at one game, that's the one. That's the City one where you think if West Ham can. Thing is, though, even a draw doesn't really help us too much, does it? You need City to lose at some point. So, yeah, it's. I don't know. I don't know. I just hope that we don't look back and go that last-minute goal against Spurs or the last minute against West Ham. It's so close, but we'll see where we are.
Yeah, I just want to shout out Rob's comment on here. I just reading it correctly. That's all. Sorry, Rob. If it's more than 3 words, I have to really concentrate on it. But no, it is true what he's saying. People saying we was in a relegation battle before the beginning of the season, and even if there was exaggerating, a lot of people were saying, I want to stress this because I've said this a few times. Usually when I'm defending Skinner, but at the start of the season, no one thought we was going to be in a Champions League battle. So to say that it's going to come down to the last game and we've still got a chance, that's massive progression in my eyes. I was screaming for stability back in May, June, even before we had a manager. When we did get a manager, so many people were saying, oh, well, he's got to settle in first. He's got to bring in his own players because he didn't bring in any players. So to say that we're even talking about this now at the end of March, I think it is a great progression. And, even if we do just miss out on goal average, I'm sure there'll be some fans out there that's not going to be happy with it because of the position that we put ourselves in. But I think it's still great. Who's put us in that position in the first place? It's how well we've done. So, I do kind of take on board what people are saying there. Just a couple of minutes to go then. So we'll talk a little bit about what we expect to see on Sunday. First of all, off the pitch, Connor. Obviously there's going to be lots of fans there. It's going to be obviously a few people who've never been to Old Trafford before. People who we know who have been on the show before, who might be in our social groups. They've never been to Old Trafford before, and it's a great opportunity for them. Some people going into hospitality because it's so cheap. All this kind of stuff. And I thoroughly agree with it. If I was to go with you guys, if I was one of these who went by myself, I would have probably done the same, So lots of people are doing that. It's going to be a great day to kind of.
Yeah, I think it is results driven, I think, because if we go there and lose, that can be very, very deflating. I don't think we will, though, so that'll be fine. The whole day, I think, the build-up to it, I wish it was a later kickoff. I wish it was like 2 o'clock so you could have a little bit more time beforehand. Obviously, it's going to be a very early start for us, particularly the time you try and get to the grounds, John, with me driving up there. So
it's 5:30, aren't you? Get there for 7:30, 8ish.
No chance.
I've heard that the turnstiles open 2 hours before, so 10:30. That's 10:30. We need at least 3 points before 10:30. So we've got to be up there for 9. That means you've got to pick me up at 6:30 and a service stop. I'll see you at 6 o'clock.
Good luck with that. that's definitely not happening. But no, I think it will be a good day anyway. Like you said, I think there's some fans that are going to Old Trafford for the first time. There's some fans that are going to watch the women's team for the first time. You know, I think that whole occasion of that is great. And I think I heard before that for people that have not been to Old Trafford, it's a good chance to just go to Old Trafford in general because it's so expensive now to go and watch I've been lucky enough to go quite a few times, but even nowadays it's so expensive to get over to Old Trafford. So for people that have never been, just to go to the ground, have a look around, there's plenty to look at around the ground. Like I said, I'm pretty sure there's family zones and all these different things. Like there's a five-a-side little pitch being set up and all these things outside the ground. There's a lot going on, so it is a full day. There'll be a lot of us there, hopefully. And yeah, just making the noise. Obviously, we're over in J stand, but most of the sections of the lower tier are open now. So yeah, it's going to be a good day regardless. And I think I'm positive that we'll put on a good performance. I'm expecting to see a few goals, and yeah, it's just going to be a good day all around. Good for the players. It'll be good to see some of the like I said earlier in the show. Some of the United fans. I'd love to see Diane get on the score sheet. Jackie's waiting for a goal. This is going to be the one, as everyone's saying. I'd say the roof will come off Old Trafford if Jackie scores. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big moment for everybody, and yeah, it's just positive, isn't it? I haven't seen one. You get some people that just like to have a dig about everything, but overall, it's just going to be a good day, and I hope people turn out and enjoy.
Emma, you're going to miss out, unfortunately. What do you think that you'll be missing out on? What do you think? What do you think is going to be like there?
Yeah, I'm actually really, really gutted. Obviously, I knew that I was doing this Hendy for a while, so when the date got announced, I was pretty gutted. Yeah, I'd love to be in there because I just think it's going to be a really special occasion. I think it's going to be a really good atmosphere. I think we're going to see a lot of new faces. Hopefully, really, really hope people who brought tickets, turn up. I know that the club have offered some free tickets to schools and young kids and stuff, which is great. But let's just get them there because there's nothing worse than having such a good opportunity like this and not taking it. So if you've got tickets, get down there, get to the game, show your support, make some noise. I think it's going to be a good day. And like I say, personally, I think United should be winning this. So hopefully you'll be celebrating a United win at the end of the day as well.
I've said 4-0 on the Anthony's prediction show. Connor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it'd be hard not to agree with that, to be fair. I'm going to go one less, though. I'm going to go 3, because I think, contrary to what I said earlier, I think nerves will play a part for the first, and not just from a United point of view, I think for both teams, when they step out, look at the size of the pitch, the crowd. And I think it was actually Willie Kirk that said it on the show on Monday, that when you've got, let's say 30,000, for example, in a 75,000 stadium, you're not going to know, because it's just going to echo a little bit and sound a bit like noise. You're not going to know whether they're cheering for you or against you some of the time. So it's going to be a little bit confusing to start with. So yeah, I'm going to go for one less, because I think the first 30 minutes or so will be a little bit scrappy. So yeah, 3-0, and it's going to be, Jackie's going to get on the score sheet finally, I think. And it'll be Tooney and Russo as well, because it just links in with the song, doesn't it?
Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Emma, just shout out your article. Then what we're going to look out for the next few days.
Yeah, so there's, like I said, there's one on now where I'm sort of discussing what's left to play for in the last 5 games of the league. So go check that out. Hopefully tomorrow. I'm hoping it's tomorrow. I really don't want the office to wait until Saturday. There'll be a big preview piece with content from my exclusive interviews with Mary Earps, Jackie Gronin, and Ella Toon. There's some bits on radio, there's some bits on TV, just like across the BBC, across all sort of channels over the weekend. And then check out BBC Football TikTok and Instagram, and BBC Sport Instagram over the weekend as well, because there'll be some stuff out there. But that was a very shameless plug. Sorry.
I'm not going to shout out everything that we've got going on, because I tried to do that literally about an hour ago, and there's just too much going on. So all I'll say is just keep your notifications on this channel and the men's account as well, because we've got so many things going on in the next couple of 3 days. So just keep checking it every few hours, and we've got some daytime shows going out and some evening shows going out, some pre-recorded and some live. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Thank you very much, Emma, for coming on. Really do appreciate it. Really enjoy having you on. Shame we can't be there, but we'll catch up before the end of the season, hopefully. And Connor, we'll see you in about an hour's time for our 4th show of the day. See you later, guys.